Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our conversation this evening as a part of the Red Bull Music Academy NYC Festival. My name is Jeff Mao, and our guest this evening is one of the great musical innovators of our times. You are undoubtedly familiar with his work as a recording artist, songwriter, composer, arranger, producer, and a mentor to others. And he is, of course, the architect of the New Jack Swing sound. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Teddy Riley. Thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You're back here in New York. This is where it started for you.
This is home.
Is it always home? Does it always feel like home?
Of course, all the time. Living in the projects will make you remember and never forget where you come from. And I never forget St. Nick Projects was the light of my life and the start of my career. So always remember home.
Where would St. Nicholas Projects be? What part of the city would that be?
Harlem, the spot, you know. But I lived in every borough except Staten Island. So I want to take the boat everywhere.
There's still time. You can move to Staten Island, like right now.
I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too close to Governor's Island. Yeah. Everybody caught that. All right.
Well, Harlem is a great place to start, actually, because I remember reading you describing New Jack Swing as a sound and how Harlem was so intrinsic to that sound. I don't know if the definition of New Jack Swing has changed for you, but how would you define the New Jack Swing sound? What is New Jack Swing?
New Jack Swing, first of all, it was a name that was given to me, and I always have to give credit to Barry Michael Cooper, who actually gave me the name because I didn't have a name for it. And it was just this music that was just, transcending. And people were just catching on to it. And then you had record companies that didn't really give you a deal if you didn't have that sound. So we had to call it something right away because New Jack City was coming out. And I can remember sitting with Barry Michael Cooper, and he was interviewing me. He said, "What are you going to call this?" And I said, "I don't know." I never knew what my music was called, or what I would call it, until he gave me that name. And he said, "New Jack Swing. I'm doing New Jack City, and you are the New Jack Swinger. You the new kid on the block that's swinging it." So I always thought of it as the new kid on the block that's swinging it until I took it into another direction of making it's a technology of music, which is putting rap and singing together and taking fusions of different music and fusing them all together. Because I had this dream of seeing like James Brown and Michael Jackson do a song together. I had this dream of seeing the Temptations and the Shotlights or mixing groups together that I wanted to hear make music. And when that didn't happen, it wasn't like a dream that didn't come true because I made the dream come true anyway by taking their music and taking the essence, not actually literally taking their music, but the essence and what I was inspired by. I took it and just fused it together, and I was always in church, so I always had to have that church feel in my music, and that's what kept everyone on the dance floor. And I didn't really get it until I started seeing it, and I wasn't old enough to go to the clubs to see it. So when I did Keith Sweat, and that's when I got back into R&B because I left it alone because the first record that I did, R&B record that I did, failed. And what I call a failure, because it wasn't a failure to everybody, but what I call a failure is when I don't hear my record a lot on BLS or WKTU or KISS or the radio station that was happening back then, which was those three. I was like, it's not a hit. So I said, I'm leaving rap alone. I'm just gonna work with rap artists, and I'm gonna leave R&B alone. I'm sorry. I'm gonna work with rap artist, and that's it. I'm just gonna make beats for everybody and their mothers. And that's what I did. And and I can remember in St. Nick Projects, all of my friends would just, because I lived on the first floor, and all of my friends would come to the window, and that's how I know I had a hit. So the record that you just heard, Rap's New Generation, which was sampled by Mary J. Blige, that record I did in the actual rooftop roller skating ring. And I don't know if anybody here familiar. A lot of you are young in here, but I used to. My uncle, Uncle Willie. I know you guys know about Willie Burgers on 145th Street, where you can get your turkey burgers and your hamburgers and the best. Well, that's my uncle. He owned Willie Burgers on 145th Street. He owned Celebrity Club, S&S, and 404 After Hours Spot, and Rooftop Roller Skating Ring, along with my partners. My partner, Gusto. So Gusto actually built me a studio. And when he built me a studio, I was in heaven. It was just like, I'm gonna be here. I'm not going outside. And they see me there so much, they built a bedroom for me, somewhere where I can just lay my head, because I never want to leave the studio. Especially, I was in the projects and I didn't have a studio. It's just like setting up my stuff on my mom and my pop's old jukebox. We had a jukebox, one of the only family in the projects that had a jukebox where you can play records. And so I used to set up my whole setup on the jukebox and just make music. And Dougie Fresh would come to my house, and then Bobby would come to my house, and Keith Sweat came to my house. So we made music, and Aaron Hall slept on my couch. Every day we were making the Guy album, and all of these people came to my projects, and my A&Rs were all the kids and all of my friends. If they came up to the window, I knew I had something. If they didn't come to the window, it's like, this ain't working. And that's what told me, and especially my brother Markel from Rex and Effect. He was my number one A&R over all my music, and he would just tell me, that's not gonna work. I don't think it's gonna work, because you gotta swing it more. You know how you did with Dougie. He would give me like references and be really technical about it. And I was just like, it's a challenge for me, because my own little brother, is telling me he don't like something, and I would go and change it, and it wound up working. And most of my hits came from my brother or my friends from around the block. Come to the window and it's like, yo, that's hot. And then they go back and do what they. So
It's pretty good, immediate feedback, though. I wanted to ask you this, maybe a little bit more broadly and philosophically. Is there a uptown, Harlem, Bronx, whatever you want to call it, musical sensibility and style that helped inform what you created? Because you have this, swing, obviously, with New Jack Swing, but there is a bounce to, I feel, a lot of music. Something about it, maybe it's not something you can put your finger on, or maybe it'd be hard for some people to describe, technically or musically. But is there something that puts that sort of bounce into certain types of music from Harlem?
Yeah, it was, for me, church. And why I say church, because the first church that I went to, which was Universal Temple, it was more like a mellow church. You come in with your tambourine and you just play your tambourine. I was the piano player for it. I didn't have a drummer. So I was like, man, I wish I had a drummer. And next thing you know, a family member of ours said, you should come to our church. And it was Universal Temple, actually across the street from the hospital I was born in, which is Harlem Hospital. And right around the corner that was the church that I went to. And the actual drummer of the church was Jazzy J from Africa Bambaataa. And you have Jazzy J on the drums, you're gonna get that bounce. And we used to try to play secular music in the church, and we would just rock secular music. It's like, boom. And we would play James Brown. It's like, in the crowd. And it was just, that's the bounce. I applied that to the music. Now, I used to go in the projects, and they used to have the block parties or to bring out the DJ equipment and everything. And I used to have a little Curacell keyboard that had the beatbox, and you play a key and it's playing the beatbox and the chords and all of that, and that bossa nova and, you know, that Casio type of sound. And I used to take it in the park all the time. This is another reference of how I got the bounce. So it had already beats in it, and you hit this one key, and it's like the DJ would go like, Teddy Ted. And what does that sound like? A bunch of records that are out later on after that, like I Wanna Sex You Up. I wanna. So that was the bounce. And that's how I started getting my flow, and then hanging out with my friends who were DJs. And I wasn't a DJ, I was the guy with the keyboard, until I just finally said, you know what, I'm gonna learn how to DJ so I could do it all. Then that's what got me into doing everything. My influences are Kid Creole. Anybody familiar with Kid Creole? Kid Creole, and then you had, for my harmony and my vocal arrangements, I listened to Manhattan Transfer. I listened to Take Six. I listened to all of the groups and singing groups that had that harmony, Temptations, and which gave me a lot of influence to bounce my music with the singing. So I would get just a bunch of records and start learning them all, and learning how their sound really, you know, cultivate the people. And that's how I kind of learned, you know, just doing it myself. And I didn't have a drum machine. I couldn't afford a drum machine, so I used to take my microphone that my mom had with her singing, gospel singing group. I used to take her microphone, which was the 57, and take a toilet tissue, a roll of toilet tissue, and take the microphone and stick it in the hole of the toilet tissue. And I would do something like this. And when I hit it, it was like my 808, but it didn't go long. So it's like, and then I was making all my beats that way, putting it on a TAC recorder, reel to reel. And then I would do all of my harmonies, and then I had this little keyboard called the DX100. And this little keyboard called the DX100, I would play everything with that until I could afford what I needed to make more music.
Okay. Well, let's actually play something that you were an intrinsic part of. It wasn't any of those records you mentioned, but you did mention the person behind this record as well. How about a little bit of applause for that? All right, so very famous record.
It is.
Very important record. How did this happen?
Well, I was introduced by a mutual friend, LaVeba Mallison, who introduced me to Dougie, because I didn't know that. I knew it was Dougie because I used to go see Dougie at the Real Harlem World Club, and he would perform, which is on 116th Street in Harlem, 116th Street and Lenox Avenue. And I would see Dougie perform, I would see Larry Love, I would see Busy Bee, Lovebug Starsky, Hollywood, and Dougie would always just rip it up because he was the first guy doing the human beatbox. And I used to always just be there. If Dougie's gonna be there, I'm gonna be there. But I never knew Dougie. I was just a fan and, you know, a hustler. In the audience trying to get, you know, figure out that how am I gonna get on that stage? And I never got up there, but front and center, I meet him, see him in high school. Like, I'm like this fan in high school, like, yo, that's Dougie. I'm not gonna be all up on him like that, you know, I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. And someday I'm gonna get to meet him. And then finally, 3 months in high school, you know, I had just got transferred to that high school, and he's been going there, so he's the guy that's the well-known guy in the school. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna get to meet him. But I was very, very shy to meet anybody. I'd never met anybody in my school unless they came up to me. But with Dougie, I actually got to meet him, and LaVeba brought him to my house. It's the best way to meet somebody, because in high school they can sun you or do something like, yo, guy, yeah, it's nice to meet you. But I got to meet him. He came to my house, and we just got right down to it, and talked about the song. And when he brought the actual song to me, it didn't have all of the things that you heard in the record until I told him, he said, so what you would do with this? He let me listen to it and put it on the cassette. And he said, what would you do to this? And I said, well, first thing I would do is take out all of the commercials. It's too many commercials, too many stops and drops.
So there were little skits embedded
more
into
than
the song.
this. Yeah. And he had a commercial after commercial. It's just like every maybe 8 bars or 16 bars, and it was just a stop. And I said, man, if you're gonna keep that, you gotta keep the people dancing. So you need that element that is gonna keep the people dancing. So I said, all right, check this out. And I opened up, I had a DX Oberheim DX drum machine. And I opened it up, and tuned down the drums. I tuned down the shaker, and when I tuned down the shaker, they looking at me like, this dude's about to break this drum machine, or what's about to happen. So I open it up and I tune down the shaker and I tune down the tom-tom so that I can get that low 808 sound. And I said, what do you think of this? Play the cassette. So he played the cassette, and I just said, okay. He said, all right, I like that. Okay, what you gonna do next? I said, all right, we're gonna do this. Shh, 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 shh. That made the song. That made the whole song. He forgot about the drum sounds and all of that stuff. He was just like, that's it. That's what's gonna keep people going on the dance floor, so we can have a couple of these commercials and the drops and all of that stuff, and then that shaker's gonna keep going while we dropping it. And that's how I was added to the song.
So was Inspector Gadget, was that part of it already, or was
that too. I added that,
okay.
But that wasn't, no. The shaker was still it. The shaker was mainly it. The Inspector Gadget was something that we was just, intrigued about, because it's Inspector Gadget. We, after 3 o'clock, being in school, we wanted to see Inspector Gadget, didn't we? So that's how that came about, and I knew it because, that was a song that I learned, teaching myself how to play. So I said, I'm gonna learn this. And that's it too, but the shaker was the main thing. The shaker, well, I always say, if you're familiar with hooks and what really hooks you in a song, it's really not the chorus. It's the pre-chorus that gets you rounded up, and then you sing the hook, because you already been hooked. So the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, that was the hook to get you into, all right, now let's go wow. You just gonna do everything. Once that thing go bam, 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 you broke your neck to get on the dance floor. And that's what Dougie Fresh did to everyone. He's still doing it today. We do a lot of performances, and that song still stands the test of time.
It does, yeah, absolutely stands the test of time. I mean, and it's such an unconventional song, just in terms of, what was coming out in hip-hop to that point. Mm-hmm. Just with the personality and the playfulness of it and everything as well. I mean, it's funny because you mentioned just the hook, the pre-hook, and I feel like a consistent theme with your music is these rhythmic hooks. I guess, whether it is the shakers, or it's, later the string hits.
I'll tell you what it is. The one thing that I put in my songs a lot is something that is going to give people either the beat instead of the lyrics, because you know a lot of people dance to the lyrics. Well, I always like to put, if you hear the song New Jack Swing, anybody familiar with that? All right, so in that song, there's a high sound that goes, so it's like, you know, that's what keeps people going. It's something that is going to keep you going. I just recently did the soundtrack for the Globetrotters. And Sweet Georgia Brown, I remixed it and did something that kept people going. Because if you look at the old Globetrotter, you know, round circle thing, and you got some people. So what I put in it was and a clap while I'm swinging it and doing other stuff that people won't get unless they have the clap. So when I did that, I did so many versions, and when I came back with the one that gives them the indication of this is what everybody's going to do when they hear the record, is clap the same way it's on the record, and everybody will be in sync. So that's my formula. I gotta have something in there. And there's another thing I'll tell y'all that I put in my songs to make people emotional about it, whether they're happy, sad, or they're just in a different mode. But the music is gonna make you come into it. And you know, everybody here have had like a massage, and when you go to the massage parlor, what do they play? They play music to make you calm. If you go online, there are tones online that will help you stop smoking or be hypnotized or get up and be happy. And that tone is in a lot of my songs. I'm sorry, y'all. But it's real. You can look online and look for tones to make you smile or make you sad. And those tones you put in the song, and it gets to the person, and it makes them feel emotional. You know, even if it's an up-tempo, I can actually make you feel really, and I used to feel emotional about songs like old songs, Let's Make a Baby, and songs like Smokey Robinson songs will make me emotional. I get sad all of a sudden, even though it's a happy song. And I don't know what it was, but I said, you know, to myself, I said, I want to be able to do that for people. And I can remember a woman telling me that your song, The Lord is Real, made my family member change their minds about living. They wanted to live. It's like they wanted to die. And they said when they heard that song, it changed their life and changed their minds. You know, now they're in church and they're doing great and well. And it's like they would come and say, what do you do in your songs that make people do that? And first of all, it's the subject. It's really the subject. It's really about what we're going through every day. And I like to talk about it. I like to write about it, whether it's lyrics. It doesn't have to be lyrics because my music is going to tell you the story. And most of my writers who write to my songs automatically get the actual hook. If I don't get it, they actually get the actual hook because it talks to them. And that's what I want my music to do, is speak to people, whether it had vocals or not.
What is that process like? I mean, we'll go through some of the classics here, but you come in when you're collaborating with a songwriter or an artist. Do you start with your rhythm? I mean, does the process start before you get in the room together, or does it only start when you're in the room together and you're starting to just work out a piece of music?
Most times I would start a song with my mouth. And I'm a big SoundCloud user, but you would never know because everything is private. Because I put all my ideas and I'll hum it in my head and put the phone like this to my face, and it gets actually the vibration of what I'm doing, because you'll hear the bottom and the vibration of what I'm doing. And that's how I come up with my songs. And I'll take that, because the software that I use, which is called Studio One, I can actually take all my SoundClouds, because it's integrated with SoundCloud, and put it in the sequencer. And then I'll take the actual thing and do a beat detection on it so that I can have it in time. And once it's in time, that's when I start creating. And that's how my weird ideas happen, because I'll put it on the dictaphone. Even before SoundCloud, even before computers and technology, I would have a little dictaphone, and a few that Michael have given me. He's like, man, I know you do your ideas to dictaphone, so I want to give you a real one. I'm like, okay. He gave me a DAT player from Japan, and it was this small as the DAT, and I would record anything. He would send us out to go record the lions and the tigers and his zoo, and I would come back with just a bunch of stuff and make beats. And that's how I create my songs. It doesn't matter what comes first. It still starts from here. It starts from here with everyone. So that's how I pretty much make my song. Now, working with Michael, you can't go to the drum machine. You can't go to any of those things until we get past the piano. So when I first went to Michael and I started.
Wait, hold on. Listen, we're gonna get there.
Okay, you got it.
I don't want to get there just yet. We got a couple more things to talk about before we get to Michael.
You got it. I will go on, y'all.
No, but just hold that thought.
I have stories for years.
Hold that thought.
All right.
But before we get to that, we have to talk about a couple other things, including this.
Ooh. Now, while that's playing, let it play. So while it's playing, these sounds were done on a Korg DDD-1 and my little DX100. That bass sound is called a lately bass, and that's been used multi times with everyone, but I use that bass a whole lot. And the hits came from the drum machine because we didn't have a sampler, so I would sample and play all the hits with the pads. And when I played that record for Keith, we had just finished shooting the game dice with everybody from around the block, and we took their money, and then we went inside, and he said, man, I want you to, if possible, make me some R&B music. I said, man, I'm done. This was the time I was done with R&B. I just didn't want to do R&B because I was like, man, it's going to fail again. I'm just going to do these rap records. He said, man, just take the chords. And a lot of people don't know how Keith Sweat and we met. Actually, we were rivalries. He was in a band called Jamila. I was in a band called Total Climax. And Johnny Kemp was in a band called Kinky Fox. And we used to travel the circuit just in New York. We never been on tour. Our tour was, we go from the Cellar to the Jock's Place to the Rennie's Lounge to Tribeca's, and then we would switch. So Kinky Fox, Johnny Kemp's band would have the Cellar, and they'll be there for about 4 or 5 weeks. We would have Jock's Place. We'll be there for 4 or 5 months until, the Cellar would let us in for 2 weeks, and then they'll put Kinky Fox back in there because they were the house band. Keith Sweat, they would play the Rennie's Lounge, they would play Blue Note, they would play a lot of different places, Atlantic City, and we had a Big Apple contest at Grant's Tomb, and Keith Sweat band was against my band, and I think Johnny Kemp's band was in it, but long story short, we won. And that's how Keith Sweat really, kind of looked at me as this kid from the block, prodigy kid, and
very young at this point.
Yeah,
right?
I was actually 15, and he's like, man, if you could take, them church chords that you do and just put it with them rap beats that you do, this could be great. So I said, give me a day. He gave me just a day, and luckily I'm so like, I'm eager about music. I can't stop doing it, you know. It's my life. It's in my bloodstream. So I went in that house and I said, you know, I wasn't really like, I don't know how to take a challenge. So it's like, you know, I'm gonna do it anyway. It doesn't matter. It's just, and I came up with this beat. And when I came up with this beat, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that it will be very interesting to people when I see them dance to it. And it would be very, you know, to me, exciting seeing them like really be, you know, like getting down, like just doing what you want. And that's what New Jack Swing did to people. You didn't have a certain dance you wanted to do. You just did what came to your mind because of the rhythm of the music. You was just, you, you was just doing anything, the freak or whatever it was. And that's what it did. When we made it, I had to get somebody, and my sister, I can remember my sister coming out of the room and she's like, so, that's, yeah, yeah. And she's like, you know, do the foot, you know, keep the foot up there. Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, that's how they gonna dance on the record. You wanted me to show you that. And my brother was just too young to know. Like, he was just, you know, wanted to go outside and blow up M80s and all of that stuff, and blew his finger in half. And I'm still making these beats, and he come inside, no response at all. So that was the time he was just, you know, I don't know what my brother doing. Yeah. You know, he's like, whatever my brother's doing is just doing. I'm going out, blow some firecrackers and whatever. And my sister, my Uncle Butchie. Everybody have an uncle that is just always in your business. And my uncle was the guy that always came in and just try and sing or just get in the middle of your song. And you're like, Uncle Butch, come on, man. I gotta do this, man. I gotta finish. Keith Sweater be here tomorrow. He's like, who's Keith? Who's Keith? I know that music sound good. You keep playing, you know, play it. I want to sing something to it. So those are the things that I got. But that was the beauty of making music, because you always had somebody to let you know with some sort of sign. And that's the sign that I got. And when I finally played it for him, yo, baby, that's hot. Yo, we can bring that down to the studio. What you got for it? What you got for it? I said, all right, I'm gonna click on the vocals. Don't laugh at my vocals, all right? Go ahead, baby. I said, what you think? He said, all right, play the vocals. I wanna. And he said, what's it saying? Because it sounded like I'm saying, I wanna. Because that's where I did the vocals, and I said, I wanna, but it's I wanna. And he's like, yo, what should I sing? I said, I don't know, but you shouldn't sing it high, because Keith Sweat was a falsetto singer, you know, in his songs. He did like Reasons and Always and Forever, and he would do all of those high parts.
Keith Sweat was a falsetto singer.
Yeah, he sung a lot of falsetto with his band. He would sing his low notes, but how, you know, when he do his riffs, he, and y'all see him do that on stage too, a lot. So I said, we're not doing this with a high voice. We're gonna do it this way. Seen you last night, saw you, and we ain't had no words. She's like, and we in the room, just him and I, just going back and forth. And I'm like, all I wanted to know, was she really there? I was like, yo, this is coming together. I'm like, I'm back in R&B again. It's like my first R&B record. I was so excited. But getting to, with this record being finished and going to the radio station, that was the part that had me like, oh God, it failed again because we had it on Jam It and Slam It. You ever, anybody familiar with Jam and Slam It? Radio station where the people call in and they'll jam it or they slam it. My shit got slammed. It got slammed, but Frankie Crocker. Anybody familiar with Frankie Crocker? Frankie Crocker saved this record. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, cause when he did the slam it, jam it, slam it, he said, y'all may slam this record, but I'm gonna jam this record, cause y'all don't understand. This is the new sound, and that took my sound, everything. And Frankie Crocker is responsible for this record out the box being a smash hit, and that's the story of I Wanna. Ooh. Ain't no turning back. So that was the making of I Wanna, and I didn't want him to keep any of those vocals because back then we didn't have the auto-tune or the pitch corrector and all of that stuff, so he just kept it. And a lot of those vocals were kept from my 12 track. I had a Kai 12 track, and we couldn't get that sound to translate to the 2-inch tape. So we brought the 12 track to the studio just like we did with the Guy album, and I find all the engineers asking me to bring the 12 track to the studio so that we can keep that same sound, and that's how we kept the continuity of it, kept it, that sound going. Like I made a lot of songs on this Akai 12 track, all of the Guy album. I did a lot of, I did The Rap's New Generation, I did Go See the Doctor, all on the 12 track.
Now, what drum machine are you using?
Now?
No, in this era.
That one.
On that one.
That's the Korg, DDD1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question, always, since this era, of anybody who's ever been in a studio, fancies themselves as some kind of a producer, is what's the setting? What's the swing setting to get this? That's their question.
I wish there was a template that I could make for everyone of what I feel inside as far as the tempo and the template. The quantization for me is off. I like to make, and especially with the MPC. The Korg DDD1 did it perfect, no quantization, and some of that stuff is off. But when I got to the MP, you couldn't tell me nothing. I mean, the MPC, the regular one, the 60, the 3000, I was just all over that machine creating my own templates, and that we couldn't actually make as a template for the drum machines because it was just certain things were off and certain things was on. 16 triplets and then 116.
So there's no magic setting. It's just...
I can't even, I wish I could.
Yeah.
I wish it was. But I never did, like, a lot of this, like when I did It's Time to Make That Change. You guys familiar? It was go-go. And go-go, you cannot, 16 triplets is not swing compared to go-go. Go-go was just off. It's like you had stuff going one way, another, and it's just, that's what it was for me. I wish I could, and I wish I did have a template for. Now there's technology that can find my template.
So you're basically playing these
I'm playing it
live to tape.
I never program I played it straight down. I played everything straight down.
You would play a
Guy
drum.
album,
Yeah,
straight down, a whole 5 minutes. And that's why it took long for a lot of these records to come out, because I didn't have a sequencer, and then when I finally got a sequencer, it didn't work right for me. I had the Alesis, and I did my prerogative on the Elises, but I wound up playing a lot of the stuff over because it didn't have the off and on swing that I wanted, and I wanted it to be, sometimes straight. And same thing with the show that was played all live.
All right, so you mentioned Guy. What led to the formation of Guy? You mentioned Bobby Brown, Keith Sweat, Johnny Kemp. These are huge, huge records. What led you back to becoming an artist as well as producer?
Because I wanted something different for us as producers. Before me, you never knew who the producer was. You know what I'm saying? But I did, because I did the research, and my producer and favorite, my idol, Quincy Jones, Stevie Wonder, Prince, artists like Rod Stewart and Phil Collins and their music, Toto and who else? Sure, so many groups out there, but those were my idols. But a lot of people didn't know. But I knew, because if I watch Welcome Back, Kotter, I watch the credits, Quincy Jones. And then I would watch Bonnie Miller. Boom, 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 and Quincy Jones. Oh wow, Sanford and Son. Quincy Jones made that record. That was something I wanted to, if I could, and I was, working with Quincy, I'd been like, Quincy, you need to be in a group. Because that's what my manager at the time told me. In order for me to be visually seen and people to know who did that music, you gotta be in a group. So I was in a group before, and I kind of shut it down. I didn't want to be in a group ever again. So that's why I went to producing with everybody and their mothers, and working with Keith, and then Timmy Gatlin convinced me to be. No, he didn't convince me. Aaron Hall convinced me to be in a group, because Timmy wanted me to be just the producer on the Guy album, for those two. And Timmy and Aaron used to work at a shoe store, and I was mixing the Keith Sweat album. I was in the mix, and they came to the studio, and when I heard Aaron sing, I was just blown away. I was like, any way I can be involved, I'll just produce it. And Aaron's like, nah, that ain't happening. If you're not in the group, I'm just gonna go solo. And I said, I'll join the group. And it was only because Timmy, my best friend, and Aaron, incredible singer, had a sound of his own, that he was inspired by Charlie Wilson and Stevie Wonder and Donny Hathaway and all of these great. So it's like up my alley that I'm inspired by Quincy Jones, Michael Norada Walden, and who else? Nile Rodgers, and all the people that I was inspired by. We had the same story to tell. So Aaron actually, didn't have a place. He was working at the shoe store, and he would just, kind of lodge with different people, and, it kind of became something that he didn't want to do anymore. He's like, yo, man, I don't have a place to stay. I said, you can stay right here. I'm going to ask my mom. And, I asked my mom, I said, Mom, can he stay? She said, yeah, he's fine. If he don't have a problem with sleeping on the couch, he's fine. So Aaron stayed with me for about 3-4 months, and we did the whole Guy album on the 12-track. And he's doing the vocals, I'm doing the vocals that I like, and whatever voices he didn't have to do it, and Timmy would get in there and sing as well, and we just had this thing going, and came up with the Guy album, Guy title album, and we didn't know what to do with it, and we just had all this music. It's like, where we gonna go to? And then we wound up going to Gene Griffin, and Gene Griffin, basically said, so what y'all want to do? And we was like, yo, we just want to get a record deal. Not knowing I could have got the record deal by myself because I was already working with Heavy D and working with Finesse and Sequence and the Uptown, Andre Harrell.
Uptown Records,
So
yeah.
I could have went to Andre Harrell by myself and got the deal, but I felt like I need protection. So I need Gene Griffin, who's gonna make sure nobody's taken from me. And at that same time, I was dealing with a lot of stuff that I didn't get credit from. And when that was happening, I said, I need protection. I need somebody to manage me. And I brought Gene in, and Timmy was cool with it, and Aaron was cool with it. And then we went in the studio. He had got the deal with Uptown Records, and we finished the album, went in the studio, and cut everything over with the 12-track recording to the 2-inch. And that was the Guy album.
Recording vocals in your
In the
shower,
bathroom.
in the bathroom.
In the shower, yeah. We would take a blanket and pin it up just like it was a shower curtain, and we would put a blanket across the door because the wall had an acoustic, sound. And in the bathroom, it's an acoustic sound. You sound like you're in a chamber. So we did that, and we put a blanket over the toilet because music travels through water, through air, through cracks. And we just tried to get the room so dead so that we didn't have the ambience. And it worked. We did I Like Everything. All of those vocals are from the 12-track.
Let's listen to a little bit of something from Guy's first album.
Oh yeah.
How to dance to these records. So if you hear all those
How about
rhythms,
some applause? Yeah.
all the rhythms in these records will show you. You can pick one and follow that rhythm, and you got it with the girl on the dance floor. I'm telling you, it works every time. I'm telling y'all. And it's so funny because when I used to go to house parties with my mom, and we go to the other family house, and our family members, and I was always asked to go and get on the dance floor, but I wouldn't know what to do because those records back then didn't have all the rhythms. Unless you put on the George Clinton, or you put on a Roger Troutman, or Johnny Guitar Watson, Fatback Band, Bad Mama Jamma. You put those records on, you know what to do. Because something is in there that's going to make you go, boom, 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 boom. And that's what got us all. It gives you that rhythm, and you pick one and just follow it. Yeah. So.
I remember when this record came out, and just as a hip-hop fan, being so impressed that there were these little accents of samples that are just so seamlessly integrated, or what basically evoked the vibe of samples, whether it was the yeah or bum ba da. A lot of people in this era were starting to move towards sampling. Did you sample your drum sounds, or were you creating your own?
Actually, I was using the stock sounds, but I modified them, because I didn't want the actual stock sound. So I just added to it, and I had this little board, where I could put the bass on, and you just kind of turn the bass up a lot if I needed it, and with the all the different accents, I kind of EQ'd all of those things myself because I wanted it to come out a certain way. Sometimes I'll filter it, or sometimes I'll leave it where it's just like a rumble, so like how you felt the bottom, it wasn't from the drums. It was from a low bass that I would put under my kick drum. So it's like, so through the walls, you're gonna hear the bottom. And that was my thing. As long as my bottom was hidden and my snares was making you, like when you're on the dance floor, you're just like, You're gonna do that when you hear my snares, it's on purpose. You know, I like for my snares to hit people in the head. It's like, yo, what is that? And even with my claps are loud, you know. And getting with Michael, I'm sorry for going back, but getting with him, he kind of just showed me how to turn music up and really hurt. He always said, I want to hurt him. And he always would go, he would always go, and me and Bruce Woodine would sit in the room. He's like, okay, Teddy, I want you to, if you can turn up the snare. When you turn up the snare, I just want you to really turn it up. And the most important thing is the backgrounds. It's got to be loud, because that's what I want people to remember. Mm-hmm. So I'm playing the music, and he'll just go, hurt me. I'm like, yo. It's like, I don't know what that means, but I'm gonna turn this shit up. But that's what happens, you know, when you get with certain artists, like Bobby, same thing. He just want to hear the music like how you gonna hear it in a club, and that's Michael all day. He's like, I just want to hear it like it's gonna sound in the club, in wherever. Like if I'm playing in a concert, it's gonna be your music. So it's gotta be knocking it. It's gotta hurt them. We gotta hurt the people, shock the world. And I'm just so for that, you know. After him, it was just like, stuff had to be bam, or you got to hear the essence of the sound. Yeah. So I'm gonna let you keep asking. I'll tell you about, as we go on, what I mean by the essence of the sounds.
I mean, getting the call from Michael, I'm sure, had to be crazy. But what was going on in your life immediately prior to that? Because, you know, you mentioned Gene. You mentioned feeling like you had to have some sense of security. What were you dealing with that, you know, what was going on in your life and your career at that moment before you got that call?
Well, what was going on in my life was I lost everything. I lost everything but the gift that God gave me. And that was my music. My hands. And I had just departed with Gene, and I was left at the airport with no money, $20 in my pocket. And I had just came to New York, because I was living in Atlanta, and I had just came to New York to release everybody from their contracts. And it was just me taking the front line and really taking a stand for the people I brought to the company. It was GR Productions, Griffin, Riley. But on the finance side, it was just Griffin. And it didn't matter to me because my music was getting out there. Remember, my goal and my mission was to get my music so the world can hear it. And it didn't matter about the money. So when he did all of this, and I was stuck in the airport with $20 and couldn't get a seat on a plane. And one person I called, and it was my best friend, Marsha McClurkin. She was in a group called Abstract. If you guys are familiar with GR Productions, Abstract was a group that we signed. And Marsha and I were very, very close. And she worked for a bank. I think it was Citibank. And with Citibank, she was able to get a credit card. She got American Express Platinum. I didn't know what it was. I was joking. It was like, what's this silver card? And she was like, you're gonna need it. I said, what do you mean? She's like, keep this card. You're gonna need it. And I didn't get it until I was at that airport, and I had to call her, and I said, I think I'm gonna have to come and stay with you until I am able to make some money to get back to my family. And she said, do you still have that silver card that you've been joking in your bag? And I'm a hoarder for cards. You know, I'm a real hoarder. I keep cards, and I go back to them. It's like, I remember I needed a guitar player. I remember I needed a stylist. And I get all these cards, and I keep them. So if I had my bag here, I would show y'all, like, cards, you know, of people, just meeting them and saying, this person, you know, I can help this person, or this person, we can do some things together, or it could be useful to what I'm doing. So that was one card I kept. And I kept that card, and she said, pull it out and give it to the clerk. And when I gave it to the clerk, I can only remember the clerk saying, you may now board the plane. And I said, how much can I spend on this card? And she said, whatever you want. She said, you have a $50,000, $100,000 limit. I said, you are a lifesaver, and I owe you. And I'm always tell this story because this is the story of, you know, the record last night, the DJ Saved My Life. Well, Marsha, Keith Sweat, Harvey Austin, God bless him, Barry Hankerson, Benny Medina. Everybody know who Benny Medina is? He's the guy that saved me and gave me my first check after being broke, having nothing. And do I have time? Okay. Well, Benny Medina called me up. Now, this is crazy. I know some people are spiritual here. I'm very spiritual because when this happened, it just made me even more believe that, yo, God is real. Like, good God, how did this happen? So I'm in the hotel room waiting to meet with Al Taylor, who's the CEO then of MCA Records. And I'm waiting to meet with him, thinking that, you know, that we either gonna get dropped because I broke up the group. You know, guy, what is he gonna, you know, talk to me about? So I'm thinking I'm going to talk to the Wiz, and he sat me down. He said, you're a very talented kid, and it's the first time I met him. Because I never knew any of the record companies, the label owners and CEOs and presidents. I never knew anyone because it wasn't my interest to meet anyone. So he thought I was this kid with some bifocals and, you know, scientist-looking kid, and I came in dressed nice, New York, and went in his office, and he said, you're very talented, you know, I want to offer you a deal. So meanwhile, I'm here just playing whatever type of cards I can, and I know, broke. And all I had was a buck and a dream. I went in his office and kept the face, you know, the poker face. It's like, he said, I want to give you $20,000 deal. This deal is going to be for your label. We think you deserve a label here. This is what we want to do for you, and this is how we're going to do it. Now, I'm still broke, and it's going to be a little while before I get some money. So I go back to my hotel room after the meeting. I'm happy. I'm just crying. I'm so emotional in this hotel room. Bring. Now, when God blesses you, he pours it on you. Hard. Like, you want to bless. And I get another blessing after another blessing. So I get a call from Benny Medina. He said, prior to the call, I'm listening to this record that he want me to remix. I'm listening to it on MTV. And it was Don't Want to Fall in Love, Jane Child. Yeah. That record saved my life as well, because that was my first record after leaving Gene, leaving Guy. All of this happened. So Benny was like, I need you to do this record right away, man. We trying to save this record. We got to milk it. Da, 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 da. I was like, whatever you need. As soon as I get back to New York. He said, well, I want to send it to you. I said, okay, send it. He had a guy bring it over. Within 15 minutes, Warner Brothers was down the street from Universal Studios. So he bought it in 15 minutes, and it so happened to be that record. I said, oh my God, I'm gonna remix that record that I love. I was listening, I was like, this bam, 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 don't wanna fall in. I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do to this, but I'm getting ready to rip this record up. It's like a hungry man. I'm hungry every day. I'm gonna rip this record a piece, and it's just gonna be like, Then he said, okay, I'm gonna send you a check. I'm thinking, and y'all gonna get this. I'm thinking all I'm getting for a remix is $10,000. That's all I thought I was getting. So I was like, yeah, this $10,000 gonna help me get a truck, get my family and everybody, and we going back to New York. And we gonna live in the projects until we're gonna start all over. So, because I still had my apartment, my mom still kept it, and my father, upkept it. Nobody lived in it. And what happened was I got back to New York and he called me. He said, did you get your check? I said, yeah, it was just a deposit of $5,000. He said, no, but that's not what you're getting. He said, I'm giving you $75,000. I said, and, that's my emotions when stuff happens like this and you get a blessing. You're there by yourself. You got to cry to somebody. I cried to God. I was like, man, what else are you going to do? What else? This is blessing beyond blessing. I got a $20 million deal that's about to happen. I only got $75,000 that's coming to me. So what am I going to do now? I get this call. Hello? Is this Teddy? This is Quincy. I said, hello, Quincy. He's like, yeah, I was just calling. You had called me. And yeah, I did. You was my first call. He's like, I heard about you and Gene, and you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. I got somebody I need you to meet. I need you to go to Clarence Avon's house. Anybody familiar with Clarence Avon? The godfather of the business. He's the true godfather of the business. He's the one who actually equalizes the business so that everyone, not just the blacks, the whites, he's the equalizer. When it comes to fear shake, you go to Clarence and he will make it right. He made it right for Clinton on a lot of things. The white water and all of that stuff. Y'all, I don't know if y'all familiar with it, but just to tell you what Clarence Avon and what he means to the business. I went to his house. I can only remember the one thing, and I always joke him about it, is after my whole thing, and I'm explaining to him what's going on, he falls asleep on me. And when he fell asleep on me, we laughed about it actually 4 months ago when I met with him. I said, you remember the meeting we had? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I said, you remember falling asleep on me? He said, I remember that. Yeah, I fall asleep on every damn body. So, Clarence Avon is he's partly responsible for me working with Michael, along with Quincy, along with who I call my uncle in the business, Mike Conception. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with him, but he's the guy that actually was a part of getting me the Interscope deal. All of these things came at the same time. It's just like, really, he poured it on me, and it was like, wow, one door closed, the other open, with a whole bunch of money just falling out. And that was really not my goal. My goal was I need to get my family back to New York, back to start all over. But he said, all right, you asked for it and you got it. And that all is the cause and the answer to your question of why and what happened, what struck, all these things. You know, I had nothing, but even when I had something, I was always hungry. And that's why I'm 700 and some songs deep. And that was, and I do thank Gene. I thank Gene, I thank Harvey, I thank Barry, I thank all the people, Dick Scott, everyone that's been in my life and helped me steer it the best way that they know how, and the lawyers, and I thank them all, because if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have never met Michael, and I probably would never be here with you all. So they all are responsible for a part of my dash. And if it wasn't for Gene, I wouldn't be deep with all the songs that I've been doing, because literally he was like a Joe Jackson without the belt. And he'd say, man, you can't go to the club. You gotta stay out of clubs. There's too much trouble there. You see these guys get shot, and you know me, I wanted just peace. And I stayed in the studio, and I did everybody from Billy Ocean to Jonathan Butler and Kumo D and all the people that I never thought I'd be working with, like Boy George, and Tom Jones. I worked on Tom Jones and on his umpteenth album, and it was just so amazing going to school, because all of that was school for me. Working with Billy Ocean was school. You know, the people who came before me were the teachers, Mick Jagger, and these guys were my teachers. So those were the things that kind of sparked me, you know, to make more music and never stop. Because the one thing that my attorney told me, he said, no, Clive Calder, who's the head of Jive and Zamba, responsible for a lot of the boy bands like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, New Kids on the Block. He's the guy, really, that discovered me. This is the guy that saw me working and making a beat, literally. He stood behind a tinted window and looked at me make How You Like Me Now. He was watching me, and then he came in, and he actually called me another name because he thought I was actually LaVeba. Because he thought, you know, LaVeba is the guy that makes the beats, but LaVeba is the guy that pushed the buttons and make things happen. He's the connector. And he called me LaVeba, and I said, no, Teddy. He said, Teddy who? I said, Teddy Riley. He said, so what are you doing here? Where are the guys? I said, they went to go eat. He said, so you're just here, and then you're making this beat. I seen you make this whole, I need to, hold, excuse me a second. He went back to his office, called the whole staff, and said, I want this guy signed. And that was my first publishing deal. My first publishing deal was $20,000. Not a lot of money today, but it was a whole hell of a lot back then. And I got this back in 1984, around then. And it was so crazy. $20,000 was so much money to me. I told my mother quit her job. She said, oh, hell no. She said, you crazy? What's gonna be after that $20,000? Oh, we gonna make some more, Bob. She said, well, when you make more, you got at least $100,000 in your bank account, then I'll quit. I said, okay, I'm gonna come back to you.
What did you learn from Michael Jackson?
From Michael what?
From Michael Jackson.
Oh, I thought you said Michael's dancing. Shoot, y'all see me on stage, I'm trying to do that moonwalk still today. What I learned from Michael was a lot of the things that I know now that I can share with other singers that, you know, I work with. You know, there are things that he taught me as far as doing backgrounds even better than how I was doing it, because I was doing it, you know, the mom and pop way. You know, we live in the hood, so we're gonna do it the best way we know how. Well, he actually showed me the format and how he does all of his vocals, even without having a computer, and we didn't have that. He did his vocals, and one thing about Michael, his pitch is amazing. Like this is what he's singing, okay. He'll go to the side, get his notes, and then he would come in and sing straight. Do you remember? And everything is the same, each stack. And what he would do was move around the mic. And he would go this way for a different angle of the mic. It's almost like a photographer. I want to get different angles of you. And Michael would go to this side. He would go behind the mic and sing the same stack. And it would be stacked about 5, 6, 7, 10 times. And then the next note. So I'm sitting here like, wow. And his vibrato, everything just the same. It's almost like a sampler. So learning this from him had taught me how to get with other singers and show them how they can actually do their own backgrounds and not sound the same. And it sounds like people instead of, that's just you. And that is how I learned how to do that, you know. It's about your angles, it's about your dynamics. And it was like going to college, you know, because I finished high school, you know, working with my brothers and my sisters and my friends and their mothers, and got with Michael, and I worked with the King. And it was just like, it took a while for me to tell Michael he's off key. Until he really put me on Front Street in front of Bruce Houdin and the assistants. He's like, can you come in? And did not know that the microphone was still on. So he's like, I need you to tell me when I'm off key. I need you to tell me if I suck, whatever I'm doing, I need you to tell me, and don't be afraid. And the same thing happened. I didn't do no interviews for the album for a long time. It's about 6 months. And I didn't do not one interview talking about the album. And he pulled me in the room again. I'm thinking either I'm going to get fired or something's happening that I did wrong. And he's like, are you a part of this album? I said, yes, I'm 100% a part of this album. He said, so why didn't you talk about it? I said, Michael, you gave me, I don't know how many pages, 40 pages of a non-disclosure. And I'm not violating that. You're not taking me to court, sue me for something I said, you know, about this project. He started laughing. He's like, don't worry about that. That's just something I give to everyone when we're doing our sessions. I want you to take these interviews. I have interviews, and I need you to take them all and talk about this. I said, well, first of all, I don't even know what's going to be on the album, so what is there to talk about? He's like, okay, I'm going to take you even further. Let's go to the room. And he had his progress board and another board here and the collage. Y'all remember the collage? The Michael Jackson collage of the Dangerous album. I'll tell y'all that story. Is it okay? Okay. So on the collage, he said, we don't even have lyrics for Remember the Time. So I'm thinking, how the hell Remember the Time get on the board? He have visions before visions, and he can tell you what's going to make it and what's not, what he feel good about and what he don't feel good about. It would be at the bottom of the list, and all the records that he feel good about, which he had about 55 records. And I'm looking at this list, and I'm like, how did Keep It in the Closet be on this list? And we don't even have the track finish. And then he put this Jam record that I never heard. Jam. And I never heard the record. I was like, so what is this Jam record? And why is my name next to it? He said, because you're going to work on it. And he said, Joy. Joy had a question mark behind it. I was like, so what is Joy and why I have a question mark? He said, because I don't know if it's going to make the album because as you can see, we have so many songs. And but I know that these are gonna make the album. So I say, I gotta go and work harder. Because I see only 3 of my songs. I went, I said, he said, so now you can talk about these songs and just spread the word. I want people to know that you're working with me. I said, cool. I'm gonna spread the word. He said, great. So I went back in and did those interviews, came back in and made more records. I started working on Drive Me Wild and I Can't Let Her Get Away and all these tracks. I just started making some tracks and he's like peeping in until I made this record that really blew him away, which was She Drives Me Wild, because he started hearing car sounds and he fire trucks, and I made this song out of car sounds, vehicle sounds, no real drums. And all he heard was and he couldn't help to come in that room and say, what is this? And that's how I got more songs on the album, because I kept working. I just kept working and just making. I did Ghosts. I did Blood on the Dance Floor. All those, I worked on all those records. And he was like, that's a keeper. That's a keeper. That's a keeper too. What are we gonna do? And it's like, then finally when I did all of those records, he made it a point for me to go and listen to how he had jam before I get to it. He said, I really, really need you to hear this record. I don't know what to do with it, but do y'all know that Michael created jam on the drum machine himself and had an MPC in the back, and he said, you gotta hear this record. So he played this record. But it had nothing else but just the beat. And he's like, what you think? I said, this is crazy. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know I wanna be a part. Mm-hmm. He said, you are. You're gonna take the drum machine and you're gonna work on this. Cause I was working on all these beats, and he's like, he was loving all these beats, and he's like, so this may kick jam out. So that's why he gave me jam. And when I took jam, I was just sitting there analyzing how and what I'm going to do and what could I add to really take this where it needs to go. And I started adding the horns and all the crazy stuff and all the rhythm stuff. And he was like, this is brilliant. Now I gotta go back in and rewrite. And that's how we were making the records. We were passing them back and forth, and he would start the lyrics for Remember the Time, but only certain words would come out. And you guys don't, you know why Michael don't pronounce his words sometimes. It's because it's the feel of the actual melody. And if you can't put a word in there, you mumble it. And that's what Michael did. And that's how we came up with most of these songs. And then he said, call some of your friend writers. And I called my best friend, Bernard Bell. And Bernard Bell came down, and I said, I'm gonna let you know right now, you gotta stay along this melody. You got to stay with this melody, or you may not make the cut. He's like, I got you. So he said, do he want all of these words pronounced? Because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to curve the words with the melody. I said, don't worry about it. Just get as many words as you can in the song. And he did. He got everything exactly how Michael curved it, which taught me, you asked me what did I learn? It taught me with Before I Let You Go. I did all of the melodies myself for Before I Let You Go. And it was only because I was going through some stuff. And I said, lately I've been thinking, da, 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 da. Da, da, you got an attitude? It's a conversation. You're not in the mood like you used to. Those were the words that I put in, but everything else was a melody. And because I didn't have time to write. So I said, Leon Silvers. Anybody familiar with Leon Silvers from the Silvers? Leon Silvers is probably the best guy that can curve his lyrics to a melody. He's probably the #1 best. You hear all his songs from the Whispers and Shalimar and all of these records, hits that he made. Well, he took Before I Let You Go and followed every word that I put in there and made it make sense. And wrote that song the same way we did with Bernard Bell. So that was the lesson of the main thing is melody is king. That is Michael's slogan. Melody is king. If you all are producers or writers or any of you who are inspired by music, melody is king. Do not write your lyrics first. Write your melody and get everything out of that melody to make it do what you want it to do. Your falsettos and all of that stuff, then write your lyrics on top of it. That was the Michael Jackson secret. I don't take credit for it. That's what he did every song. Even, you guys seen the #1s? Yeah. All right, do y'all see the making of the #1s? Yeah. Where he was like, you want to be, you got to be strong, you got to be. And that was him and Randy, who was the genius when he made those. That was the thing about how you make a melody. You're doing it, you're jamming, everybody, we're in the room, and you coming up with a line, and the song is finished. That's what I learned from Michael, was really how to write a song without lyrics. You write the melody.
I know we've heard this many times. We have to listen to just a couple of seconds of this, just a little bit of this.
There was a creative battle with this song and why it took so long. It actually took us 4 months to finish this song, and I'll tell you why. It's a funny story, because when Michael was singing the verses to this song, and I'm actually coaching and letting him go and do his thing and just lay his vocals, because he doesn't like to stop and go unless he say, I like this part so much, I want to punch onto it. Well, Michael would sing vocals straight through, and it'd be like 20 tracks of vocals of one, just a verse. Well, we got the final verse done, and he said, I'm going to lay a one take now. I said, okay. After 22 tracks of vocals, I want to see this. And he laid a one take because he knew what Michael does when he's doing his vocals like that. He's taking what's good and really implementing it to the last track. He's really like taking those phrases and taking it and really signaturing it, and then he makes the vocal. And when he made that vocal, we were so happy. And he disappeared. Michael went to Switzerland right after the first verse. He went to Switzerland to check on this mall that was being built, and he had stores in the mall. I think it was his mall. And he called me while he was on the plane from his satellite phone and said, I'm going to be back in a couple of weeks. And I said, Michael, I thought you was in a room. I'm thinking we're going to get this record finished and you're gone. He said, oh, we're going to get it finished. It's a smash. It's going to be on the album. I'm thinking he's gone. I'm not going to be here in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I got to go back home. And I said, Michael, well, can I go home? He said, no. I said, why? He said, and I remember everybody who left, like Dallas Austin left, because nobody really had the patience for Michael. He'll keep you in the studio and you'll be in there and he's not there. And there's no indication or, no guidance, You You got Bruce Swedien. Yeah, that's great, Teddy. Just keep going. And you know, all of his workers, everybody's just there for you, and you need food, and just like just to keep me in a room. And so I said, Michael, I miss my family. He's like, bring them. I said, Michael, I can't bring my family. He said, call Norma. Bring them. They can come. I said, I miss my friends too. He said, bring them. Don't worry. I said, well, how are we all going to get around? Rent them all cars. Okay. I said, Michael, I could just go home for it. No. Please, stay. Everybody left me. I need you to stay. This is you and I. This is our album. It's not just Michael. Your name is all over this. And when he came back, there wasn't a marketing meeting or anything without me being there. And I can remember I chose the album cover, which was, you know, that's amazing for someone to put you in a position. It's like they had a bunch of pictures on the table, and it's like, Teddy, what do you think? I'm nervous as hell. I was like, I don't want to pick the wrong thing, and the whole record company, everybody hates my idea. Well, I said to him, none of those are the album covers. He said, what? Should I do a new photo shoot? I said, no, they all are great. But that's not the album cover. The album cover is what you've been doing in that room. It's that collage with your face in the middle. And you're looking to all of your art. And you're seeing the vision in the colors of your music. He said, oh, go get it. Had the workers go get it, and they bring it in the middle of the table. And everybody was like, wow. Because I'm the only one that's seen it. And maybe his workers who walked in the room, but they never thought twice, because Michael always making art. He's an artist. I'm talking about a real craftsman artist. He'll take these apples and make it into art, and put water, and he'll just make this whole thing and start piecing things together, and take the plants and the monkeys, and that's what you've seen. And it was so brilliant that they made it into a 3D. If you guys can go on eBay, you can actually pick one up. And it's when you open it, it's like, you know, the collage, and it was life size, it stands up. And I said to myself, wow, this is how God works. So for you to be from here all the way to here in the marketing meetings, and from that to Michael being on American Music and Grammys saying things about me that are so like, wow.
I have a specific question about Remember the Time. And I feel like the song always stood out to me just because of the register in which it's sung.
I know what you're about to ask.
He's lower than he is on all the other songs, you know, to this point, from the previous album, more or less, and even the other material on this album. That had to be a conscious decision.
It's always my decision, because that's how, you know, Bobby Brown walked out of the studio on me because he didn't want to sing my prerogative the way we envision it and the way we hear it. Same thing with Keith Sweat. He didn't want to sing I Want To that way. And I said, Keith, you got to do it this way. This is your signature, and you don't understand it right now, but you'll understand later. You got to sing it this way. He's like, all right, I'm going to try it this way, but if it don't work out, baby, I'm going to do it my way. Same thing but Bobby was like harsh. He's like, I'm telling you, I don't sing, I sing. Yo, I make hits. I did Girl Next Door. That's how walked out of the studio. I was like, well, we ain't got to do this, Bobby. He's like, all right, I'm fuck out of here then. Walked out of the room, and the record company literally had to tell him, we're going to can your album if you don't get back in that studio with this guy. You know, do you know who he is? And that's Lil Solace. God bless him. who was responsible for me being on this album. And I only had well, 2 songs. And he came back in and said to me, if this shit don't work my way, we gonna do it my way. I said, all right. I'm always the calm one. See, that's the job of a producer. You gotta be the opposite of your artist. If your artist is shy, you gotta get their ass up. Come on now. You gotta get in that room and get that shit going. And you scream at them, what? And you make them scared. You get them nervous. They start sweating, the voice get moist, and then they gonna get the vocals done. So with Michael, he broke out on me, and the purpose of him singing that low was, I said, you can't give everything away in the beginning. You gotta gradually get them there. So as you hear the song, this is the perfect song for escalation. It's like you climbing the steps and you get to the top of the stairs and you get, do you remember girl on the phone? Georgia, 2 or 3, what about us? Girl. And it was, he didn't do that around us. It's certain thing when you go in the studio, it's like certain things I do in the studio, I don't want y'all in here. Like when I play the vocoder, it's very, only person I had let in the studio and then I kicked him out was one of my producers, because he was in the back just laughing like crazy because I'm up here trying to get all the feelings. That's why y'all hear this music the way it is, because the vocoder really, because I'm screaming in that microphone. That's how it sounds before putting it in the vocoder. And you gotta literally, to get the feelings out of a vocoder, you gotta, you just gotta be just uncomfortable, really uncomfortable, singing, screaming, lose my voice. So I'll wait 2 days or a day of taking tea and all of this stuff and then finish it out. Same thing with Michael. Michael would sing that one part, and he's in that room just going hard, screaming, getting mad, throwing stuff, and that's how he gets the aggressiveness of that vocal. He'll go in and bam, and I can remember one time, the anvil cases fell on Michael, and all you heard was, help, 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 help me, Bruce, Teddy. I was like, what happened? Oh, this is Bruce. The anvil case fell on him again. And I didn't know that Michael goes through a lot to get himself in that mode of screaming. And all the records that you hear him scream, you have to know that Michael is doing something to get himself in that mode. Mad, aggressive, like, I hate you so much right now, that type of thing. And I've actually seen it once, and it really gave me a whole lesson of why I do what I do. Sometimes I'll just take off my shirt and be in nothing and do vocals, because that's how I feel. It's how you feel. You're a creative person, your art. So this is how you're gonna be today. That's why I don't allow cameras in the studio, because, we actually go through a lot to get the vocals how we want to get them, and that's what Michael do. But let me tell you something about Michael. A lot of people don't know that Michael have a real deep voice, and a lot of people don't know why he talks light. Well, the voice is a muscle. The voice is like how you work out in the studio, and the only way you're gonna get the muscles is you gotta keep working them out. Well, him talking high is working his voice every day to stay that high. But one day Michael called me and said, hello, may I speak to Theodore Raleigh? Theodore, how are you? And then he would go and laugh and go into that voice. I don't know, too much for me. And that was why Michael sings high. and why his voice is so clear when he sings high, and his falsetto is so silky and pure, and you feel it, don't you? It's because he's working out every day. And Seth Riggs, who's one of the best vocal coaches in the world, this is the guy that made Michael talk high. No matter what you do, when you talk to people, you talk high. And that's what he did. Hi, how are you? And if I wanted to be a high singer, all I would have to do is just keep talking high. And I can talk and sing high. So I can talk to you like this every day. Hi, ladies. How are you doing? I'll answer the phone this way and talk like a woman, and you wouldn't even notice the difference. That's what Michael did. That's the secret to Michael's madness of being such a great singer and the greatest entertainer of all times. We go through the motions, and we go through what we do and what we have to go through to keep that sound, to keep the voice, and to keep what you guys want to hear on stage. If we didn't, you wouldn't like us. So.
Now, obviously, you've done tons of work since working with Michael, but after you work with somebody, the biggest star in the world, is there some part of you where anything after that is a tough, like, well, this isn't working with Michael Jackson. I mean, how do you follow that,
After working with Michael, Bobby and Whitney was waiting in Virginia for me to work on the Getaway album. That's a challenge. That was the biggest challenge. But I did what I could for Bobby's album. And we made a good record. Of course, it wasn't the Dangerous album. So after making Bobby, how I created Blackstreet was Chauncey had came to me and said, because I was a little upset that Bobby wasn't, singing all the songs that we had. We got 13 done. Bobby was like, we finished. I was like, we need to do 13 more. He's like, man, we finished. I'm out of here. I'm getting married. I was like, Bobby, we gotta do some more songs. So we got to the point where he was like, all right, he's not gonna do no more music. We gotta make the best out of this. And that's what we did. But it created Blackstreet because Chauncey was singing all the demos. And when Chauncey did all the demos, it was me training him, because prior to Chauncey even singing for me, I said he couldn't sing because he auditioned for Guy. And all in my mind was just looking for somebody who could sing close to Aaron or have that Charlie Wilson voice so that I can get two at the top with the Aaron voice, and me and Damien will take the bottom, and we'll have that great, that Guy sound like Where's Your Love and all of those Aaron Hall backgrounds. So it was the songs that was left was the songs that we used for the Blackstreet album. And we created Blackstreet. And I said to Chauncey, I can help you create a group, but I'm not going to be in it. Because I still had feelings for Guy, I still had that in my heart and my soul. We're going to get back together, and it took a toll on me to think about being in Blackstreet. I was like, no, I'm not going to be in this group. I still got my group over here, but I wound up being in Blackstreet, and I wound up being in Rex and Effect. After Aaron had did an interview, and it was not good. It was like, forget Teddy. It's like, we don't need him. It's like, I'm gonna do my solo album. I was like, solo album. I could join this group now. And I joined it, and We made a big, successful career album, and it was amazing. And I felt like, well, I knew I was making dreams come true for Chauncey and Levi and all the guys. My goal was, if it failed, I made a dream come true because of what I said about Chauncey. I had to correct that because that's not what kings and teachers do. You don't shut a person down, you pick them up. And that's what God blessed you to do. He blessed you to bless others. And I said, wow, I could be a blessing to this guy. He had no job. He didn't have any place to stay. And I was leaving. This was before I started working with Michael. I had moved to Virginia, had the studio, and he's like, man, I need a job. I don't want to move back to Jersey. And I said, yo, you can come to the studio. He said, man, I'll sleep on the floor. It doesn't matter. So I said, all right, you can stay here at the studio, and, you know, you can monitor it with my god brother and my staff, and, you know, just do whatever you can. Fill in, get in where you fit in. And he did that. And he stayed the whole year in 3 months, maintaining and helping around doing the studio. And that right there told me, Dak, this kid is going to make it. And I wind up just started putting him in the studio. Let me, you know, he did all of the, how you say, dues. He paid all his dues, you know, doing stuff around the studio. And I just said, you know what? It's time to really bless this brother. Let me do some stuff with him, let him do these demos, kind of get used to me. And then maybe I'll bring him out as a solo artist. But when he brought up the group, that's what happened. We put together Blackstreet.
And you also developed a sound that was the next evolution of your sound.
Well, started with Michael. Michael was the start of the new Jack Swing. Right. He just took it to another level. And that made me just wear the innovative sign. I was just like, okay, I got to be innovative after working with Michael. I got to come up with something that's just going to shock the world. And no diggity.
Hey. Yeah. You know what? To bag it up. Yeah.
Story behind that record is amazing because first of all, I have to give credit to my good friend. He passed away 2005, who wrote the lyrics, Will Stewart. Will Stewart and I, we've known each other since I was, I think, 12, 13. He'd known me, you know, because I was this little kid making music, and they used to come in my projects to go see some girls. I think it was my friend, which is his partner, Teddy Blinn, who was seeing someone in my building, and they all came up and they sung. You know, I heard their voices. They were called Pure Blend. And Will was the writer along with Teddy, and they were like the two corpus of the group. It was, I think, 4 members, 3 or 4 members, and Will was in my studio, and he had this sample. Will is also a producer, and he had this sample, Bill Withers, Grandma's Hands, and he played it for me. He kept playing it. I kept walking by the studio. I was like, what is this sample, and why is this making me walk out of the studio, keep passing the room, and for him to just give it to me? And I said, okay, this is it. I need that sample. You can give me that. And he gave me the sample. I said, I got something for it. And I took it in my room, and I cut it up in pieces where it was by each hit. So it's just to keep it in tempo. So I can remember the tempo being 88. And I said, I'm gonna keep it 88. Because if I speed it up, it's gonna change the tempo. It's gonna change the pitch. So I don't wanna speed it up. I'm just gonna cut it in many pieces and make the loop. And then I'm just gonna build from there. And Will kept walking in the room. It's like, yo, that's hot. It's crazy. And then I said, I'll call you when I'm ready for you so we can start writing the lyrics. I'm going to do the melody, and then I'm going to give it to you. So I got this record to where, when y'all hear that piano line, it was almost like I was thinking of, you remember how dun 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 dun, or you know, after a joke is said. Well, I thought of that hit being that for the record. It's like, town, dun 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 dun, strictly bitch, you don't play around, dun 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 dun. So that's what the piano line was for me. It was my tag, you know. And I had to have it in there. It was like, I need something at the end because I can't let this beat go down. It can't stop. It got to keep going. And only time it'll drop is when I have to say something. Baby, you're a perfect 10. Drop it. Ba-da-da-da-da. Like the way you work, kid. And that was my feeling of that song, giving it a new blues, a new R&B, a new bounce. And of course, no one understood it but Heavy D, who wanted to steal it from me, who steals all my songs. Heavy D would come in, and this reminds me of the bully, you know, give me your lunch. And Heavy D would come in, and we got our own thing from Rex and Effect. He took, what's the other one? Now That We Found Love, and Is It Good to You? Is It Good to You was Rex and Effect's record. And I could only remember, I'm not giving you this record, Heavy. I can remember we sitting in the room, and he's sitting at the board. I got the picture. I wish I would have bought it. But he's sitting at the board, I'm sitting at the board, and he's like, you know, you should give me that record. And I'm like, not this time. He said, you know, you're breaking the rules with this record. I said, what do you mean? He said, there's nothing like it. That's the reason why it's for me. I said, no, this is not for you, Heavy. If you want to rap on it, I would love for you to. But I know we're here for your record. We're here to make your record, not this record. You can't get this record right here. You took every record of my brothers, and I'm not letting it happen. So we wound up doing Now That We Found Love. I said, take this record. It was Rex and Effect record. It was like, oh, God. So he gave me the thumbs up, and then it was Dr. Dre who gave me the thumbs up by telling Jimmy, he said, when Teddy do this record and he does the video to this record, I want to be in it. And I said to Jimmy, unless he give me 16 bars, you got to give me 16 bars, and then we can be in this thing together, and let's make history. And that's what he did. The next day, he cut his vocals. He didn't even wait. He cut it. They sent it right to me, and we put it in the song. And I said, we can't just go with it like this. We need a rapper in the middle. He just gave me a beginning. It's going to be boring. There's no escalation. So there's this girl who's my little sister, Miss Queen Pen, who actually, we met way prior to that, and when we met, we were in an IHOP, my favorite IHOP, down the street from my studio. It's right across Princess Anne High School, which is where Pharrell went, then IHOP. And that's all was on Virginia Beach Boulevard, was the school, the studio, and the IHOP. And she came up to me and she said, I don't want to make it look like I'm coming on to you, but I rap. I said, cool. So you know, do something for me right here? She said, I'll do something. I said, no, wait a minute, because you're probably going to be loud. Just meet me at the studio, and when you come to the studio, I'll be prepared to listen to everything you got. She came to the studio, she spit and everything, and I was impressed. But I said, Shorty, I ain't got nothing for you right now. But as soon as I get something, I'm gonna give you a call. And the call was no diggity. She was home waiting for my call, and I said, find that girl, the rap girl, the one that came on to me in IHOP. I love her so much, and y'all pray for her. You know, she's going through it right now, and it's not anything financial because she's great, but she's not able. And I want everybody to just keep her in prayer. But when I got her on that song, it sealed the whole thing. Icing on the cake, song done. We took it to Jimmy Iovine, and all I can remember was my manager at the time, Madeline. Madeline was like, okay, we're going to play the record. I was like, I'm nervous because I don't know if it's going to make it. By the way, the guy stuck me out there just like, you sing the first verse. You put me on the front line. And that's the reason why I'm singing the first verse, is because it wasn't my plan. It was my plan for them to sing it because, like I said, I wasn't trying to be in Blackstreet like that. But it just so happened, I'm singing the first verse. The guys was like, if this fails, it's gonna be on him. I believed so much in this record because I knew it was something new, and the one thing that Michael told me is when you have something different, know that you had the first. And if it doesn't become the first, big hit for you, somebody else is going to sample it, or somebody's going to be inspired. So either way, people got inspired from the record, the sound, the new sound. And we took it to Interscope, and we all went out there and sat down in front of Jimmy Iovine, and being that Jimmy is the type of guy to have the demo face, and he's on the thing sitting up with his BlackBerry while the record is playing and not bopping his head to it. It's just like, so what do you think, Jimmy? He says, I like it. I like it. I just don't think it's the first single. You are right. He said, Buy Me Love is the first single. And the reason why, because of his relationship with Paul McCartney and how much I love Paul McCartney and the Beatles. So I was kind of cool with it, but I wasn't cool. And I said, Jimmy, I think we're making a mistake here. He's like, well, I mean, let me just think on it. Let me just sit on it. And then Madeline was like, you know what we're going to do? The same thing we did with Rum Shaker. We're going to press up 1,000 copies. And we're going to put it out there anyway. We're going to give it to the radio stations because of our relationships. And we're going to let them play it, and they're going to decide for Jimmy. Well, all of this happened at the same time. We was about to push the button, get ready to play the record, and then Jimmy calls back. Dre said he wants to be in the video. Okay, so is it the first single? And then I said, no, I need him on the record to be in the video. And he gave us 16 bars. And when he gave us the 16 bars, we went into getting Queen and everything, and it became our way. You know how you get favor? It's you keep pushing it. Pray until something happened. And that's what we did. We prayed on this record, and we was like, this is gonna be it. This is gonna be the single. This is it. Done. Changed Jimmy's mind. Changed the group mind because they didn't believe in the song. And it changed the world for me. Because for me to be on a song that went number one 13 weeks or something like that, and went platinum in no time, and all these great things that Michael said was going to happen for me. He said, you're going to get a big hit, and watch this. You're going to really do it, and you're going to be real. You're gone. You're gone. And I hope to get you guys on my tour. I said, oh, hell yeah. Make this record. And we made that record. And we really, but I have to go back a little bit, and then I'll just let you know. Before Blackstreet was Rex and Effect. Right. So I hope we go into that, because I really have to give you why and how that record came about, and how Pharrell was a part of it, and all of the things that happened for that song. And actually, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 months that song was made. So No Diggity was the actual record that was the go-by to finish the album. Now, at the same time, I was going through something really, really hard, and that was my relationship. I thought it was going sour. I was sick for 2 weeks after coming from Trinidad. We made the whole No Diggity album, Another Level, in Trinidad. We did this out there while they were having carnivals, so that's how you heard some of the rhythms from that. You know, just the rhythms in the song, in the album, period, was from my excitement from being at carnival. So when I came back, I just found stuff going on with my relationship, you know, and my ex was seeing somebody, and it just made me write more songs. But I wasn't able, because I was just gone. I was just out of it. And the guys came to the house praying. They came to the house and they played Don't Leave, Finish, because I had finished the music and I did the hook, and they came to the house and said, yo, just listen to this. No, baby, no, baby. They had did it, all the vocals, and I said, wow, I'm sitting up in the bed like emotional. And I'm about to break up. But this record is in my head. Don't leave me, girl. Please stay. I didn't cheat. So y'all know who cheated. But I deserved it, because I got a great album. And y'all hear it now. It's over what? How many million? Over what, 6, 7 million sold? That's big for me without Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did a record without Michael Jackson, and it went big. And it really shocked the world, because now, still today, No Diggity is a Mercedes-Benz commercial. It was on Pitch Perfect, and it was the Beck commercial, and Ed Sheeran did it. So that's what classics do for you, you know. These records are classics, and I didn't know it would be.
I do want to give these guys a chance to ask some questions, but I will just ask you one more before we hand the mic out to anybody who might have a question for you. And maybe you can incorporate what you want to say about
No problem.
Rex and Effects and Pharrell. But you have been a mentor to people who have had a huge impact on music. What is that feeling like, from having this long arc of a career, starting as a very young person? What does that mean now, over these many years, to be able to pass along something, whether it's a Neptunes or Rodney Jerkins or Timbaland, Che Pope, or whoever it might be? What does that mean for you?
What it means is I'm doing my calling. And my calling is to bless others. My calling is not to just do music. It's to do music and pass it on. And that's how your legacy continues. Just like the Michaels and the Prince. we were given a gift, and that gift is not to be taken for granted. It's actually to use it, but not just for you. It's for everyone. God gave it to you to share, and that's what it means to me, is to share it. And I'm able to share, and I've been able to share it in my whole entire 50 years. And I'm proud, I feel like I'm a proud big brother, a proud mentor, a proud father, because my kids, I didn't push them to do music. I didn't push them to do anything. I did push them in school, and I pushed them to dance, and look at them now. They're dancing for the top, and they're teaching, and that's all I wanted to see, was them make something out of themselves and do something for where they can share. And that's what my oldest daughter, Deja, she still today, I still treat her like she's my baby. If she come and say, Dad, I need something, or I need this, and she wanted to go back to school, and she didn't have the means to, because she got her own place and got so much to do. And I said, hey, I gotta make this happen. I have to figure it out. And now she's teaching boxing, and she's teaching dancing, and she's doing everything, and she's on growing up hip hop. They were trying to figure out how she make it to growing up hip hop, but a lot of people never understood. It's like, your dad do R&B. No, he started doing rap. So these are all blessings. They're not blessings just for me. They're blessings for others that I'm attached to. So I'm attached to everyone in here. And I really see a blessing happening for everybody. And I'm not trying to be a preacher or anything or prophesize, but it's a connection. And our energies flow through each other. And something from this will make you go back home and be a creator, whether it's art or anything that you're doing. That's what this is doing. It's like that's what God circulates through an arena like this, and everybody get it, and they flow with it, and they leave this saying, I'm about to make a smash, or I'm about to make the best art that is going to sell in the art gallery or whatever, or I'm about to write this book. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Chris. So I haven't yet to write a book. My book is finished, but I haven't yet to put it out. And when it comes out, it's more than what we have here. I mean, I have over 35 years of things that you need to know and watch out for. So.
Do we have anybody who has a question for Mr. Teddy Riley? Please wait for the microphone.
How's it going? My question is, you talked about tone, you talked about melody. My favorite thing about a Teddy Riley record are the solos. And it's something that we don't see a lot of in music today. So I just want for you to give a couple takes about like who inspired that or who influenced that for you.
There's a few people that inspire me to do solos, and whether it's a saxophone, harmonica, whatever it is, I'll do a solo because it's only right. And it feels good to do it wherever I did it. My inspiration, who inspired me to do it, was Larry Dunn. I forgot the keyboard player, and I don't want to say the wrong name, but the keyboard player from Prince who did When Doves Cry. That's when music, when you got a solo on the record, it's like it's like the essence of music. You're going deep into the art of that song, and people need to feel that. So when I did Teddy's Jam, it wasn't my idea. It was Aaron's idea to call it Teddy's Jam and make my own signature song. And truth be told, I am not the greatest keyboard player in the world. I'm not even halfway there, but I'm still in school with some of the greatest and still learning theory. My godfather is Benjamin Wright, who is our great Afro-American composer, and I live at his house. He's still my mentor today, and that's how I learned theory. You know, I learned how to get more into the soul of music, because all I've been doing was winging it. Seriously, I've been winging it because it was a blessing. And that blessing pushed me to do everything without even learning how to read music. Everything came from here and here. So my solos was from here and here, and not being able to really fluently go and do the Prince solo. But I said, I'm gonna get close. And as a creator, we deal, and we work with what we got. And that's what I did. When those solos came, it was just bloop, 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 bloop. And it was like, it reminded me of when my favorite song was, track was Beverly Hills Cop theme. That was my favorite solo because I knew how to do it. And that's what sparked me to do Teddy's Jam, because I wasn't with doing a Teddy's Jam. I didn't even want to be in a group, but being in a group, I had to bring something to the table, so that's why we did Teddy's Jam, and I did whatever solo I knew at that time. And as I progressed, I started doing better solos and, really knowing what I'm doing, because if it becomes big, it's my signature. So I'm glad you pointed that out, because, a lot of people don't say, we like your solos. So thank you so much.
For someone who doesn't want to be in a group, you've been in a lot of groups, and they're all amazing, and they're all wonderful. So when do you have another collaboration or group project on the horizon, considering that you have clearly way more decades more of music to give us?
No more groups for me, but I'll definitely work with artists, and I'm working with a few artists now. I just finished doing the Mary J. Blige record, and being a part of that. It's my dream, working with Mary J. and just fellowshipping, But yeah, no more groups. I don't want to quit no more. I've been quitting groups, but I've been in 5 groups, and we all made records, and some were difficult, and losing my best friend when I was with Guy, that's what made me quit, because I felt like it was all on me. This is my best friend who came and was front and center just for me, because he wanted to protect me, and it really wasn't about us, Guy and the audition and the whole thing that happened. It was all the backline and the background people, and it kind of put us in the forefront, and the first industry beef and all of that stuff, but it really didn't have to do anything with the actual principles. And that's what made me quit the group, because I got this Michael Jackson project, and I got all these things and these new deals, and I said, I can't do it all. I gotta kind of sit back and make records and kind of build the catalog, because that's the real estate of the business. It's making and creating and writing, the publishing. So that's what I had to quit for. It wasn't because we are at odds and, the guys, don't want me in the group. I just had to take a leave and really regroup, and, I had already got everybody out of their contracts, and I took a big hit, for my friends, but they don't know that. All they know is we out of the group, we're gonna get back with Teddy, and we don't, that type of thing. And I had to really sit back and say, Dag, I gotta think about me sometimes. And that's why I quit. It wasn't for anything other than that. And, I love my brothers and the guys in the group, even the guys from Blackstreet. I just really feel like sometimes when you do things for people, they take it for granted, and they don't understand where it really came from. Not me, it's God. He blessed me to bless you. So you should return the favor to God. Bless me back. And that didn't happen at all. So that's why I had to take a step back and look at myself and say, what about me? I have children that I've left and couldn't see them until I got home because I'm on tour, thinking about you. You understand? So no more groups for me. And if I do, it would have to be Mick Jagger, the people that get it and have it and don't have to say, well, Teddy, you got the money, you spend it, you do it, you do this, you produce it. I want to get with people who want it as much as me, and we can do some stuff like how they did the Super Heavy, Jesse and all the people who came along, and they just did it for the fun of it. So if I did something, it would be a super group with people who want it just as much as me and who love themselves as much as I do. Love me.
Who else has a question?
I do. What made you choose Virginia for your recording studio?
I chose Virginia because back in the day, I don't know if you guys ever seen Paid in Full. Well, the movie was about Alpo, AZ, and Rich Porter. Well, Rich Porter and I, we went to Martin Luther King together. And he was like my street mentor, things he kept me from. And he told me, I don't want you hustling, I don't want you doing this. And I kind of went behind him and didn't do what he asked me not to do. And Rich Porter and Patricia, his sister, was always like, in school, because I was this nerdy kid. But I did have a cool look. I didn't look like the nerds, but I was this kid that was just, if I said something, it didn't come out right, because I was a nerd, for real. I just looked the part as a cool kid, and they took me, Rich and Alpo and AZ, they all took me under their wings. They always like, yo, shorty, don't, I can remember being in a place where I saw my life before me. And, guns was held to our heads, and, we didn't know what to do but just get on the floor. And Timmy Gatlin was there, and LaVeba and all, and we were seeing our lives before us, and God just came, was like, ain't nothing gonna happen. And then the guys with the guns was like, don't mess with that short kid, the little shorty, that's Shorty, man, that's the music kid. And he said, that's the music MF. And when that happened and my life was spared, that's what made me say, I want to be long gone, where the wind blows free. And the only place I knew was Virginia Beach, where I could be on the beach and get a house on the beach and have my studio at the beach. And it was a way to get away from losing. I lost Rich Porter, Duke, my little brother Brandon, Von Drew, and all my friends before 30. And that's what made me move to Virginia, because we had went there for a field trip. Rich Porter, Alpo and them, they bought the buses. They rented the buses, and I was shorty on the bus with my fiance at the time, Donna. And we both looked at each other and said, if we move anywhere, we'll move here. And we did it. When you put stuff in the universe, 9 times out of 10 it's going to happen, unless you mess up the dream or the dash. We take detours in our dash, and sometimes those detours stop you from the dream. So my dream was to live in Virginia, not knowing what I was going to do there. But I started a music scene and vibe and movement that was unheard of. Now Virginia Beach is way on the map, and still. So Virginia is my second home. I lived there 17 years, half of my life. And it became the place to be for a lot of people. I remember Heavy D coming to Virginia saying, when you come to Virginia, you got to play the Teddy Toll. And I said, what's the Teddy Toll? He said, man, everybody know you here. So I'm calling it the Teddy Toll. And Puff came down. Everybody came down. Even Russell Simmons came down with Leora. And they came down for me to do Gotta Get You Home with Foxy. And I remember doing that song, and they came down, and they was like, man, we gotta go down and see him, and he's gonna charge a lot of money, but we still need to see him because we need this record fixed. And track masters who I look up to and I love their sound, everything. I was like, man, this record is done. He's like, no, it ain't. You gonna touch this record. I said, all right. So I took the record and put Blackstreet on it and put the talk box in the 4/4 and all the things that I did. And then they was like, okay, how much you want to get paid? I said, give me what you want to give me. He said, get the F out of here, man. And Russell looking at Lear, and Lear looking at Russell's like, is he kidding? Come on, man, just tell us what you want. We ain't leaving this room until you give us what you want for this record. It's a smash, and you're well worth it. We ain't got a crazy budget, but I said, I wrote down this, and I said, take $1 out of your pocket. And they looking at each other again like, this nigga is bullcrapping us. I said, take $1 out of your pocket. He took $1 out of his pocket. Give me the paper. Thank you. Do the paperwork. Give me the points. They didn't believe I did the record for $1. I did Gotta Get You Home for $1. And they started giving us gifts and Louis Vuitton bags, and I said, I don't want that. Give it to the band. Give it to Chauncey and all those guys. I don't want that. And I remember, there was a guy by the name of Red Allen, who's the best friend of my Uncle Willie, who was the president of Atlantic Records. He was the president of the R&B department. And he said to me, sat me down while we were uptown, and he said, this business is made up of favors. Give a lot, and some will come back to you. And that's what I thought about when I did the record for $1, and Madeline was there, you know, and I'm sorry? Yeah, we framed $1, and that's all I took for the record, because I knew these are two powerful people, Russell Simmons and Leor Cohen. Most powerful, one of the few of the most powerful men in the business. I need my favor. Well, by the way, I didn't look to them, you know, and it was just a good record. I wanted to be a part, and I wanted to do something with Russell Simmons, and I wanted to do something with Leor. And I didn't think back on the favor. I just know that I did something that God pushed me to do, was bless people, bless others, because that's what you are blessed for. That's my story.
We have one more question, I think.
First, I just have to say thank you for everything that you've done for music. Honestly, thank you. Like, as a person that's from New York that loves to dance, I don't think there's a genre of music that makes me happier to dance to than New Jack Swing, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you.
But my question is, earlier you mentioned the song Is It Good to You? And I remember there were two versions of that song. It was Heavy D had his version, then it was Tammy Lucas, I believe, was the vocalist on there. And the song was really, really big during that time. And then I kind of didn't hear anything from her until, I think, years later. I remember hearing her on Super Thug with Noriega. And I just wondered why there was never a Tammy Lucas album or a project, or if there was, like, what really happened with her as an artist.
Well, it was a up and down moment with Tammy, who's an incredible singer, songwriter, and visionary. And why I say visionary, because Tammy was the one that actually push me into making music just to her lyrics. She would give me acapellas, or she would sing something and I would get it right away. And that's how we came up with Goodbye Love, and we came up with certain records, you know. And Is It Good to You? Tammy, before, I'm sure you know, was a club singer. She sung club music, and she had a big hit out there. And I was pushing for her to make another record. But we wound up making so many records for everyone. And Tammy, to me, is real estate. She's in the real estate music business. She's been writing for Khalees and all these people, and she's still doing well. You know, sometimes people find their place in this business or in life, and they just stick with it. And that's what she did. She just said, I'm not going to be an artist, and I'm just going to be a writer. And I would love to have Tammy on my new album that I'm doing for my book. I'm actually doing a soundtrack to my book so that you guys can hear music and hear new talent to people. And we're going to have some fun with it. We're going to have some interesting music pieces, and I'm also doing some symphony pieces, because my dream is to be in Carnegie Hall, you know, the symphony halls, with people with tuxedos on dancing in their seats like, and it just made me that's my dream, y'all. And I'm putting it in the universe. It's happening for me right now, but you know, I'm trying to put all the pieces together, and the people that I want to help me with it. Because as you know, the reason why I never did a solo album is because I'm a team player. I don't believe in, you know, there's no I and we. And I'm just a team player. I'll join your group, and I'll join your group, but I won't be solo. But now it's time for a Teddy Riley album, because I feel like everybody's made an album. Pharrell, Timbaland, and all of my brothers, they made albums, and I feel like I should make an album, but I want it to be meaningful. I'm not gonna try and be like something that I'm not. But I know y'all gonna hear that talk box, and y'all gonna hear that vocoder, and y'all gonna hear what I have, somewhat of a voice, and that, you know, a lot of people say, yo, I like your singing. I'm like, yeah. I wish I could do Luther, you know, I could do Aaron Hall or somebody. But, you know, I do what I can do on stage. And that's what you will see in my live shows. You know, we're touring now, and people are so enjoying. You know, sometimes I get emotional on that stage with Guy. Because Guy on the stage is like pandemonium. It's like people are like, you got pimps in the audience crying, and because they were in relationships, and they out of relationships and in the pimping game and all of that stuff. And I literally see people in the audience crying, like where they been. You can look at the expressions, like, my sunny days. And that's the feeling I want people to have with my music, with the art of it, you know. That's it. That's all.
Well,
I just want y'all to look forward to more things, because we have the film coming. We have a bunch of films coming. One of the films that's coming that I know y'all gonna be really intrigued with is Rooftop. I can't wait for y'all to see Rooftop. My partner Gusto and I, we're putting our heads together, because you deserve it. You deserve to see what's been going on in Harlem. Because back then, certain people couldn't come unless they had the limo driving through and seeing the sights. But now it's beautiful. It's art. Harlem, the whole New York is art. And I miss it. I miss it. So I'm sure y'all probably look for me to come back here, but I'm definitely gonna do it. I'm coming back for concert. We're working on it now. It's just been honored, but I said, I don't want it right now because I want it to be big. I want it to be like Cotton Comes to Harlem or Harlem Nights, you know, and we're going to do it. Keith, we all came up with, let's do something for, you know, New York and our home, and let's bring everybody. And it's called Harlem Nights at either the Apollo or the Beacon Theater or something like that. So look forward to it because we're gonna do it. It needs to be done. Also look forward to Kings of R&B. It's a show, and it's Keith Sweat, Bobby Brown, and all the kings of R&B, you know, and we're just striving to be the Rat Pack, or we're striving to have our residency all over the world. So look forward to all these things. We ain't stopped. I mean, we love it. That's the reason why somebody's talking me into doing Unsung, and I said, I'm not unsung. So I'm still on the stage, and I'm still able. I ain't unsung, and I'm on the Mary J. Blige album. You can't take that from me, and I'm on Maroon 5, y'all. I'm doing what I'm still doing. You know, it's like, if you're still doing what you're doing, give me a documentary, but don't give me no unsung. I'm sorry. And I just want people to feel my story on the screen, and we're working hard to do it. So if we got a bunch of films coming, and Rooftop is one of them. New Jack Swing, Remember the Time, which is the name of my book, which is coming first. So look forward, y'all. I really enjoyed myself here. It took a long time. Red Bull.
It took us a minute to get you here.
It took some time. It took some years.
Some years.
But I'm just so happy and blessed to still be able to tell my story and get my flowers while I'm still here.
Let's say thank you once again to Mr. Teddy Riley.